Hey everyone, welcome back to Brown Coat Nerd. Today we're going to be looking at the Glock 81 Sawback Field Knife. Real quick, I just want to remind everyone to go check out my Instagram and Rumble. And now back to the video. I do have to set out a disclaimer here. I'm not really a blade guy. I mostly collect surplus firearms. I've got a bunch of old bayonets, but that's pretty much the extent of my blade knowledge. So this is going to be kind of more of a show and tell. There are plenty of reviews on YouTube that go over the durability and quality of this knife. And pretty much what I've gotten from those for the price, which is roughly around 35 bucks, it is a really, really good knife to get. It's going to be durable, it's going to last, doesn't break the bank. It's not the best thing out there, but for 35 bucks, I think it's a pretty good deal. I've always kind of wanted one personally. It's a Glock knife. I think it's kind of cool. And two, I just actually honestly needed a good knife for myself for when I am out in the countryside or out camping, which I haven't really done a whole bunch lately. For example, I haven't used this at all. And it was a Christmas gift from about 2 years ago. So I definitely need to get some use into it. But I just wanted to show you guys this. I think it's pretty neat. It is also worth mentioning there's another version of this called the 78 that simply does not feature the sawback portion here. That was the original knife that Glock made. It sounds like those are being discontinued or slowly being phased out. So just a heads up on that. They do offer these also in several colors, and it'll always be the handle and the sheath matching. From what I've seen, it looks like black and this OD green here are kind of the most common color. I personally thought the green just looked cool, and that was the one that I wanted to get. So my awesome little sister-in-law got me that a few Christmases ago. Now then, on to what this blade is. So Glock started making this actually to be the bayonet for the Austrian Steyr AUG. You have a little cap here that pops out, and it's got a metal aluminum shaft that goes halfway through, and that's for the bayonet lug to fit on. And then you'll notice the top of this is bent over. A lot of people will say this is a bottle opener, and it will work in that fashion. But the actual reason this is bent over is so it can fit flush with the flash hider when you're using it as a bayonet. But yeah, you totally can use this as a bottle opener. I don't think that was actually why the intention was, but it does work as that. And then a lot of countries, even ones that don't have the AUG as their standard issue rifle, will use this as a military knife and issue it to its soldiers. And I've got a list here. I got this off of Wikipedia. And this is different countries that use it in one branch or the other of their military. And obviously we have Austria, Denmark, Germany, India, Luxembourg, Malaysia, Poland, Taiwan, and South Korea. So I thought that was kind of neat. The blade type is a clip point carbon spring steel with an HRC rating of 55. Now, I have seen some reviews on this knife say that the Glock actually makes kind of a commercial or civilian version, which is what we would have here. And then they also make one for the actual military contracts that they have. Now, apparently the hardness is a little bit different on the military one. I can't remember if it's softer or harder. And then the finish will have more of a matte black rather than this gloss black finish on there. And these stats I'm getting just from the different places that were selling this, what they had it listed under. It is a phosphate treated blade, polymer grip and sheath. And then the sheath itself, you have a little clip here for your belt. And I don't know if you can see it, but we got a little nub that protrudes inside there. And the idea of that is you put your belt on and then you pull this down to kind of cinch it onto your belt so you don't have it sliding up and down your belt, which is pretty cool. This does unclip, and I will tell you when you first get it, you're going to think you're going to break it. This thing was super stiff. It's still very stiff. But the very first time I was like, oh man, do I want to do this? Am I about to break it? So it is a very firm attachment that is not coming undone accidentally. So that's nice. Then we do have a little clip here that clips onto the knife itself. Keeps it locked into the bayonet or into the sheath. We do have a little bit of play. back and forth, but it's not too bad. And then this is a very, very sturdy lock. If that looks flimsy to you, no, it is not. I've really tugged on this to the point of almost hurting my shoulders. And that guy is not coming undone. And you can put the blade in either direction. It will lock in both ways. As far as markings on the sheath, I believe we just have this one Glock logo right there. It is not on the other side. And other than that, there's really no markings other than the seam going down. And now the older knives will have a more circular Glock logo. And then the newer ones will have this more modern Glock logo there, just so you know. And then we do have a little attachment here if you need to tie it down to your leg or whatever. Also have a drain hole at the end. Then on the grip itself, we do have the Glock logo on both sides. You'll notice a little hole here. It is not a pass-through. I do not know if that's to aid in the removal of this little plug. But once you have the plug removed, if you wanted to use it as a pass-through, I do believe you can. And also just worth noting, if you pop this off, it messes this cap up quite a bit. So you're not going to be able to put that cap back on and have it not be noticeable. Which is kind of unfortunate because I know a lot of people are like, oh, maybe I can use this little compartment, put some like matches in or something like that, and then just pop that back on. And you could do that. However, just keep in mind, the edges of this are going to be pretty flared up. If you just go to any videos of people prying them off, you'll see what happens. And I'm not really 100% sure how secure that cap will stay back on there once you remove it. So just keep that in mind. Then on the blade itself, we just have markings on this one side. The other side is bare. And what we have, first line says Made in. Second line says Austria. And then the third line, we have that Glock logo along with the 81 model designation. Another thing, some people will talk about getting these blades in brand new as dull. This one is sharp. I'm pretty sure I could improve the sharpness if I wanted to, but it's definitely not dull. So just keep that in mind. You might need to sharpen it up real quick. The finish seems really nice. However, I did notice it's not the easiest to get picked up. There's like a line right here just on this one side. So I think that was a slight mess up in the finish. But once again, I don't care. It's a $35 knife. I'm embarrassed that this thing is still this pristine after I've had it for like 2 years. So hopefully soon I'll get enough use out of it. You can't really see that. If I run my finger along it, I can just barely feel that line. Yeah, and I don't feel that on the other side. So, yeah, a little bit of a blemish. I'm not too upset about it. And then right there, looks like we got a little bit of a buildup of the finish or something. But once again, not terribly concerned on that. The top portion of this here is not sharpened. And then we have our sawback or root saw there. Which in my opinion, out of the two, this definitely looks more gnarly. But for some reason, I really want a black 78 now without the sawback for some weird reason. So the dimensions, we have a 6.5 inch blade. Overall length, we are looking at about 11.4 inches. And then the weight, which I didn't really necessarily recall seeing anywhere, so I get to use the cheapest digital scales I found on Amazon yet again. Total weight with blade or knife and sheath comes in at 8.6 ounces. And then the knife on its own, we are coming in at 7.1 ounces. And then if you're really bad at math, the sheath on its own is 1.5 ounces. That adds up, right? Okay. Get that out of the way. So yeah, I just wanted to show you this real quick. I think they're pretty cool. I know a lot of you know they're out there. However, I do talk to a lot of people that have no clue that Glock makes a knife. I believe they made this before the Glock handgun. Not 100% sure. But I know they would make things like this, and I think they also made a shovel for the Austrian military. So I think it's just kind of cool. I'm not necessarily really a Glock fanboy. I actually don't really like striker fire. But my carry is a 43. And honestly, the whole story of Gaston Glock, probably mispronounced that, is actually a really interesting one. And if you don't know it, I highly recommend you go find a video telling about the whole history and his attempted assassination attempt on his life with a hammer. It's just nuts. Like, it needs to be made into a movie. It's very interesting. So, even though I'm not a huge fan, having a Glock knife to go along with the Glock handgun's kind of neat. I'm not going to dive real deep into it and go out and get the Glock curtain rods too. Yes, that's a thing. So I'll just probably call it a day at the knife. Although the shovel would be kind of neat too. Anyways, guys, that is it. That's all I've got for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. And of course, as always, stay safe and stay shiny.